Today we are doing a team building guide with a heavy focus on the AFK stages because I feel like for most people it's the most important thing. It really doesn't require that much investment to get a good team going, and the further you get in these stages, the more and more rewards you get by doing nothing. In my opinion, it's the most important thing to really focus on, especially as early as possible. Before we get started, I do want to give another massive thanks to AFK Journey for sponsoring this video. Obviously though, if you're not yet playing AFK Journey, I'm gonna have that link in the description and pinned comment down below, so make sure to check it out. There are only really like 6 characters you need to care about. There are other teams for this, but this one is like the sort of lowest investment, best results I've had so far. I have quite a few, mythic and supreme units here, but half of my team are these guys down here. We do gotta start with the most important one, and that is Cecia. She is an absolutely broken character. Basically, the entire point of the team we're gonna talk about is just to stall until Cecia gets her ultimate, and then she can summon Mr. Carlisle, and unless the enemies are too overpowered, that's the end of it, you win. But yes, this is the core of the team. This is the one character you need a decent amount of investment in. Smokey here acts as the healer of the team. He also does not need Supreme Plus to work well, though of course, higher the better. Next up, we have Rowan. He is incredibly important to this team. Like I said earlier, the entire team is focused around Cecia trying to get Cecia's ultimate, and Rowan is a very unique character that actually speeds that process up. His ultimate just gives everyone within an AoE a lot of energy. As you get him higher and higher ascension, he will become a better support, a better healer, but for the purpose of this team, he's perfectly fine at base, just, for that extra energy. So these 3 units, Cecia, Smokey, and Rowan, will pretty much always be there. For the other 2, it's basically a choice between 3 different units. That is Antandra here, acting as the tank, Brutus here, and the 4-star Coco. All 3 of these units have pretty much the same goal: to stall until Cecia gets her ultimate. Brutus is very special. He has a pretty neat ability, which we're going to demonstrate right here. Let's go ahead and just enter the battle and see what happens. So he should be dead already, but you see he gets an invincibility shield for about 5 seconds after he was supposed to die. That might not seem that impressive, but let's take a look at my mythic Antandra, much higher level, much like stronger or whatever. And we can see that she definitely doesn't survive anywhere near as long as Brutus does. In fact, she survived longer than usual because the dudes pushed her back and they had to walk to her, but I digress. As for Coco, what she does is when she gets her ultimate, if she survives that long, she will provide all allies with a 45% damage reduction for 12 seconds, which is very, very good. The main reason I wouldn't take Coco is if the enemies are too fast and too aggressive and she doesn't have time to get her ultimate off. So yeah, for pretty much the last 200 AFK stages, it's been some combination of those 6 heroes. And if we put our 5 units in, we're at 604k. We're still at a massive, massive power deficiency, but we should still be able to do it. This is the first time I'm actually trying stage 866, so it might take a little bit of trial and error, but generally I start something like this: Brutus in the front and Tandra close behind, and then the 3 back here. Smokey usually should be directly in the middle of everyone, so his heal hits everyone. Sure, let's just see how this one goes. But here we go, Cecia just got her ultimate, and you can just look at Carlisle dying instantly. Okay, sometimes though it does literally just come down to RNG. Also for artifact, when one doesn't work, I usually switch to the other. It's basically a choice between confining and star shard. So we're gonna try confining now, but basically everything else the same. So there's Carlisle. He is back out again, and he can actually do some attacks now, and you can see him going crazy over there. He does so much damage. I don't know why he was dying instantly in the battle beforehand. Maybe it was because we didn't have the confining spell. That's really the only difference now. And as you can see, that went perfectly fine, even though we are technically very underpowered. And if you're really struggling with a stage, you don't know why it's not working, here's another tip. There's this tiny little eye inside the scroll. This will show you the information about the stage and everything. And over here are records. I really don't want to start with this tip because I think it's also important to know why the team works how it does, so you don't have to always come back here, check what team people are using, and then hit the replay button and look at their positioning and try and figure that out and see where everyone is and everything, which is also very helpful in the beginning. But again, I think it's important to know why the team works so that ultimately you can play the stages without having to come here and look at a replay for every single one. That is essentially the sort of meta AFK team. Again, if you can manage getting a strong Cecia, you're basically golden. The rest of the team is pretty low investment. As a small update here, I've progressed a bit in the AFK stages, and since initially recording this video, I've actually been using a lot of Odie as my main DPS as opposed to Cecia. Odie, as we'll talk about a little bit later, is a very exceptional hero for a lot of things, though he also does need a bit of investment like Cecia. His Heart Crusher ability that unlocks at Mythic Plus is kind of wild. Enemies 30, 40 levels above me will just instantly die once they reach like 40% of their HP or so. The rest of the team remains relatively the same. We still got Brutus, Antandra, Smokey, and Rowan here. But yeah, for some stages, I'm just replacing Cessia with Odie. Not for all of them though, I still do use Cessia. It's just, I'm using a lot more Odie as well now. I also recorded this video before Florabelle came out, and she's also an interesting character. I did compare her to Cessia a bit in the showcase I did for her, if you want to check that out after this. But as she's only available as a limited hero right now, and you generally need Mythic Plus for their full potential, she is more of a spender option at this point. Also, I just noticed these enemies have literally 55 levels on most of my characters except Odie, where they have 45 levels. All right, here we go, here we go. The snake comes up. Okay, since these enemies are so strong, he only does the snake one-shot attack when they have maybe 25 to 30% of their HP, but that still is relatively a lot. So I basically just want to make this update to add Odie amongst those like 6 heroes we talked about. But yeah, back to past me to continue the video. When it comes to the other main content like Dream Realm and Arena, it kind of mostly comes down to just raw power, but there is definitely some strategy involved. Dream Realm, for example, it's always boss enemies. Cessia is generally not great for Dream Realm because she focuses more on AoE. However, there is one exception to that, Cyclops, because he'll actually summon minions at one point that need to be killed before he can take good damage. You can just come up here and click hot for, you know, general recommendations. In King Croaker's case, he does literally just one shot every now and then. So a unit that can revive themselves like Thorin is obviously going to be really good. Besides that, Odie is widely regarded as like the best single target DPS, or at least up there with the best. Vala is pretty good as well, especially once the boss drops below 50% HP. Corrin at Mythic Plus anyway can deal true damage. Mine is not Mythic Plus yet, so I don't use him. If my Marley was higher, I would probably replace my Odie in this case because Odie deals magic damage and both Vala and Marley do physical. In that case, I would also take Kruger, which really reduces the boss's physical death. Like there's 10 attempts I can make on this guy, so I usually experiment with teams and stuff. But yeah, the point is to not die and do as much damage as you can. The Croaker will also do some big AoE attacks every now and then, so Smokey's there to keep everyone relatively healthy. And for now, of course, I still have Odie in there. He's just really solid single target damage. I have actually gotten a small power boost since the last time I tried this guy, so let's see if we can break our record here. But yeah, you can probably see his one-shot ability here coming up pretty soon. This is another AoE attack. Yep, here we go. He blows a bubble. My Thoran instantly gets one shot, but he gets back up. Our record is actually 79.9 damage. So doesn't look like we'll be able to do that. 79.76. Again, there is a bit of RNG here as well, so we're gonna literally just try the exact same thing. Oh, I think we're gonna break 80% this time. Yes, we did, as a matter of fact. Very cool. But yeah, we got the level 220 weapon. Very nice. Ah, he went for my Vala this time first. Odie is still alive here at the end, so it'd be interesting. Oh, there he goes. I mean, we got very close again to that like 80% mark. Wow. Yeah, I mean, you can see here, my Odie's doing quite a bit more than my Vala. He did survive a little bit longer, but really not that much. They're pretty similar in terms of investment though. They're both Supreme Plus and they both have level 10 weapons. But yeah, King Croaker is just one example here. You can get a general idea of a good team from the hot page. I'd say for a lot of the bosses, I don't even use a real tank because the point is just to do as much damage as fast as possible. Obviously, if you are dying with time remaining though, it's important to try and survive that time. When it comes to Arena, I have noticed it's more or less a power battle. Like when I'm looking for someone to fight, I just basically look at the smallest number that is available here. But like Daryl here, you know, he has 362k attack power and I have 580, so I feel like I should be able to pretty easily beat him, you know? You'll basically always see Rowan and Thoran and Cessia, and then the last two change from here and there. One of my definitely favorite things to do though is swap the enemy's Rowan over to my side so that he can kind of not do anything. Okay, my Reiner just took like the last enemy underground, so we're just waiting here until it comes back up. Yeah, I guess for Arena, just making sure you have a decent defense is important as well. I thought for way too long that you had to set a team for each different arena map here, and then when someone attacks you, the game will randomize which map you actually land on. Just choose one arena, set your team appropriately, and then save it. For Artifact, I again kind of flip-flop between Star Shard and Awakening. I mean, we get 26% magic and Fizz Def, which sounds pretty good for this one, but the extra haste and the AoE attack after doing 3 ultimates, pretty good for this as well. So yeah, in summary, in my opinion, it's most important to try and get a good AFK team going first. Besides that, you will get a lot of free summon tickets, so you know, make sure your wish list is good and how you want it. This includes the 4 stars. I know I've talked about this in almost every video I've made for AFK Journey so far, but my opinion does shift a little bit here and there as I experiment and get new heroes. So we're gonna go through it one more time. At the time of posting, Vala will probably already have entered the standard pool and you might be able to add her to her wish list. I would recommend doing that. Just make sure to keep Rowan here. Rowan's an insane character. Corrin is very good for single target stuff and bosses like Dream Realm. Marley is another single target DPS for, you know, bosses, Dream Realm. Smokey, I of course would have in Mauler, but he is maxed. Outside of that, again, I would recommend trying to get at least one Brutus before taking him out of here. Of course, have Odie here if he isn't maxed. Besides that, I would try and get at least one copy of Kruger before swapping him out, and then probably move on to Coco or Antandra. That's a pretty hard choice. Like, there are some really good 4-star Mauler heroes. I'd probably say Coco above Antandra though, because she is so unique and has a very powerful damage mitigation ability. Wilder, of course, these two would be my choice. I am of course going to swap out Aaron because he is maxed now. Probably just going to try and get my Granny a little higher, though I don't really plan to use her that much. And Hewen is a very good healer, also has some pretty good damage reduction at Mythic Plus. For the 4-star Wilder, I have Arden and Damien here. Arden I feel like is more for late game once you get your Iron and Carolina very high. Of course, if my Cessia wasn't maxed, she would be here with Thoran, but since she is, we swapped her out with Carolina. I've also been struggling a lot with the 4-star Graveborns. Like, I flip-flop between them a lot. You know, she's a rogue, she goes to the back line, but since I have a maxed Vala, I haven't really paid her too much attention. But yeah, that's my wish list and my reason for having them that way. Future me to add a little update in terms of the epic recruitment. There's an interesting strategy you can employ here if you have some epic recruitment tickets. As a warning, this does carry some risk, but basically this is for if you're targeting a specific A rank hero, like you just need a couple more Odies to max him out or whatever. What you would actually do is put 5 A levels, or we're just gonna call them 4 stars, up here that you don't want. But it's important that those 5 you put up there are here in the wish list. Now, if we go to prize pool, you can see we can only get 1 of 3 different A-level heroes. Here's where the risk comes in. If you get an early epic, it's going to be one of these 5. It could be bad. So the typical strategy would be to do this while you're not very close to pity. So we have 18 more to go, for example. And while as far as I'm aware, the chance doesn't go higher, the closer you get to pity, I would just feel less bad about getting one of the 4 stars if it was super early anyway. But yes, doing this means every A-level hero you pull will be one of these 3. So I think if you're willing to take the gamble and making sure you go back to your S levels before you actually hit pity, it can be pretty powerful. If you don't want to gamble, I'd probably start with these 5 heroes until you get one Brutus, and then you can swap him out with like Hewen. You know, she's a good healer. Also, Iron's quite good as well once you get him up to Mythic Plus. I generally wouldn't consider permanently having a 4-star in here. If I had to pick one, it would probably be Odie because he's like really good for everything. And while Stargaze Station isn't super relevant to most people, I would start with Rainier until he's Mythic Plus and then move on to Scarlita. That's my personal preference. It is echoed quite a lot. But yeah, I suppose that'll pretty much do it for the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you have some other team tips, feel free to drop them down there as well. Once again, I'll have that link to download AFK Journey in the description and pinned comment below, so make sure to check it out. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.